Hey, y'all, Gravity, and they above ground livid. Hope you're having a fantastic start to your Monday. Shout out to the troops and those that have served. This is your day. As I said, we're going to take a look at this. Make sure you share this out. Hold on one second. I'm going to do that myself. All right, it should be good now. So, as promised, we're going to look at two videos today. We're going to look at Piers Morgan, both of them. One was featuring Brandon Tatum, Jack Posobiec, and a left-leaning radio host out of Vegas. And I forgot the name of the other black man that was on there. And then after that, we're going to look at Steven Crowder and what's his face? Mark Lamont Hill. They talking. Because, of course, they all want to say the N-word all of a sudden, but they don't want any of the ramifications that come with it, but they also want to be able to police it. Can't have it that way, but, right-wingers. So, let's see what they talking about.
My own view is that he's doing this deliberately to propagate anti-Semitism. He, for many, many months now, if not several years, has, to his 33 million followers, as he proudly boasted on the show on X, he uses it to air what are blatantly pro-Hitler, pro-Nazi, anti-Jew sentiments. And that breaks every rule that X has, for example, on its own platform, which is why millions of accounts get suspended every year for far less, in many cases, than what Ye has been doing. And I don't think he should be allowed to amplify these hateful, often violent in their rhetoric, abusive terms towards particularly Jewish people, where he talks about them, the need to make them slaves, the need to whip them, and so on. It's outrageous. It shouldn't be happening. And when you do a song that goes along with all that as the background called Heil Hitler, I don't care how arch you think you're being or what smart-ass point you think you're making. The truth is, you are being anti-Semitic and you know it. And you just want a bunch of people running around chanting Heil Hitler. Well, my panel includes the host of the Officer Tatum channel, Brandon Tatum.
Why were you late, sir? He just did another stereotype. Black people, do not be late like Brandon Tatum, the thug. Go ahead.
Heil Hitler. Well, my panel includes the host of the Officer Tatum channel, Brandon Tatum, the host of Human Events, Jack Posobiec, the cultural commentator, Kazan Asidu, and the host of Pushing the Limits, Brian Shapiro. Well, welcome to all of you. I just want to play what Michael Knowles said, because I really respect Michael Knowles. And he had a very nuanced take on this, which I think is quite interesting.
Seems to me that the introduction to the song actually sets that up. He's saying, I'm not in my right mind, I'm not thinking logically, I'm just full of anger and wrath and sin and vice, and I'm the villain. So, Heil Hitler, I'm a Nazi. I became a Nazi. I'm the villain. Right there off the top. He's not saying Hitler is good. That's how this is going to be reported in the press. That is how Nazis are going to take it, and that is how the Kanye haters are going to take it. But it's not what he's saying. Right there off the top, he's saying, I'm bad. I'm doing bad things. I'm not being smart. I'm not being logical. I'm not making any sense. I'm bad. I'm a villain. That's why I'm a Nazi. In other words, the Nazis are the bad guys, and Hitler's the bad guy, and I'm the bad guy.
Daily Wire, y'all got to stop with these song breakdowns. Y'all sound terrible. This is number 2 behind Ben Shapiro talking about WAP. This is not your speed. Don't do it, please. Thank you so much.
Okay, so Brandon Taylor, welcome back to Uncensored. I get the point that Michael's making, but I think he's being way too generous and probably a little bit wrong, I think, in the context of the chronology here, because one of the reasons that he's not allowed to see his kids so much is precisely because of all the anti-Semitic bullshit he was spewing before Kim Kardashian, the mother of his kids, decided it was just crossing a line which made it unsafe for the kids to be around him. So there's a chronology issue there, never mind anything else. But I also don't think that is really what Ye's motivation is. But what do you think?
Well, I'll say this. I don't think Ye's motivation is to be anti-Semitic. I
Really?
think he's a mentally ill individual.
Now, just for those who remember, Brandon showed off the fact that he has 2 tattoos that have Israel on it. So just take that as you dissect what he's saying.
Individual. And when somebody's mentally ill, you don't listen to what they say. He's trying to do anything that he can to get attention. And I agree with Michael Knowles that he's trying to articulate his frustration, which I don't agree with his frustration. I think he shouldn't see his kids. I think he's absolutely out of his mind. I think he says hurtful and evil things that can make people believe that he's anti-Semitic. Maybe he is, but I don't think this song specifically is alluding to the fact that he wants to support Hitler. I do think he's artistically explaining his frustration, which I don't agree with. But that's just what it is. I think that we're blasting this anti-Semitism out of control to a certain degree. Everything that is negative towards Jews isn't always, in some cases,
come on. Sorry, Brandon, hang on. I don't disagree with you about people often go from 0 to 100 very quickly and branding people racist and so on and anti-Semitic and so on. That's not what we're dealing with here. This guy has spent sometimes 10 hours on X spewing anti-Jewish sentiment. I see it all the time.
Piers, you could be. That could also be true. Like I don't follow a lot. Some of the things he. No, I'm saying some of the things he can say can be anti-Semitic. I'm talking specifically about.
How do you go into a debate without all the information? I'm sorry, family. This is one of my pet peeves. If you're going to sit here and debate and be a person that can articulate points, allegedly, how do you go on these programs or go into settings where you know you're going to have a back and forth with someone and not understand everything that you're talking about? Why are you, Piers Morgan, why do you have this man on after he just told you he don't follow Kanye, so he doesn't even see what he's been doing on X? And Brandon, why are you going on these shows and you know what the topic is and you don't familiarize yourself with what the topic is before going on? Never mind.
This song, I don't think the intention of this song.
No, but I don't think. Yeah, but I don't think you can divorce. Let me go to Brian now. Brian, I don't think you can divorce the history of what he's been spewing publicly to 32, 33 million people on an almost minute-by-minute basis, which has contained absolutely shocking abuse of Jewish people and perpetuating every stereotype imaginable that you've associated with anti-Semitism. I don't think you can just say, well, none of that really matters. We should judge Heil Hitler on its own. The whole point is, this is a natural extension of everything he's doing, is to do a song called Heil Hitler.
Right. I can't believe what I'm hearing, Piers, from Brandon, that somehow Heil Hitler in a song isn't anti-Semitic. By the way, this is the same guy who sold swastika T-shirts the week his album came out. Is he mentally disturbed? Yes. I totally disagree with Michael Knowles. Just because somebody thinks they're the villain or they're doing bad doesn't make it okay. And by the way, this is about money, okay? He gets in the news and he says ridiculous things, anti-Semitic or otherwise, to try to sell albums and be in the news. Yes, is he mentally ill? Sure, but here's what makes him even more dangerous. He has one of the big...
Okay, how do you know he's mentally ill? And I like how he said, that's not my opinion. This is just my opinion. How do you know he's mentally ill? Oh, okay. All right.
Biggest platforms on the planet, millions of followers. When he says anti-Semitic things, and that's exactly what they are, it's dangerous because everyday people that are cult followers that follow him will start to buy into it. I had a conversation with a friend of mine who happens to be African-American a few weeks ago.
Here we go.
He's become anti-Semitic because he's a huge Kanye West fan. Now, I'm talking with him, I'm trying to work with him, but because some people in society are huge Kanye West fans, they listen to his music, but they also buy his swastika T-shirts. That can also incite violence. This is...
What black person did you see buy a swastika shirt from Kanye? What? Jesus Christ. They're gonna go spend money to go buy a swastika T-shirt? A black person. Who are y'all hanging around? Never mind.
absolutely anti-Semitic, Brandon, and you can't deny that.
You know what? I'll go back to Brandon quickly for a response. But honestly, I don't know if he quacks like an anti-Semite, he walks like an anti-Semite, and he spends all day, every day, spewing hateful abuse like an anti-Semite. He probably is an anti-Semite.
Well, Piers, and I'll say this again, maybe what I said was misconstrued. I don't deny that he's anti-Semitic. I don't deny that he said hurtful or evil things about the Jews, which I disagree. I'm probably the biggest Jewish supporter on this panel.
There you go. There you go. Knows nothing about their history, knows nothing about what was going on with them Jews prior to 2023, October 7th, but he gonna cape. I say that again. Knows nothing about the Jewish history. He couldn't probably tell you what the Balfour Doctrine is without looking it up. Doesn't know anything about what's been going on between the Jews and the Palestinians prior to October 7th, but he gonna cape for the Jewish community, and he's not Jewish. And the reason his qualification for doing that was, one, he has 2 tattoos of Israel on his forearms, and 2, he's probably getting paid by them. But want to do videos talking about how Kanye was doling out money to all these celebrities. All right. All right.
But what I'm saying is that when you look at the song, I'm articulating clearly that I don't think that was his intent initially by saying Hail Hitler. He did have an articulable point of why he was upset. He was comparing himself to Hitler. I don't think it was a direct connection. But I do think it's wrong. I do think it's dumb. I do think it's stupid to make a song like that. That's like saying that you're going to make a song to
but the thing
supporting
is,
a pedophile.
Right, I'm going to bring
at some point you're not going to get your point across.
Okay, I'm going to bring Kaizen in here. You see, I don't just think it's wrong or dumb or any of those things. I think it's absolutely dangerous in the way that Brian just articulated. We saw Dave Portnoy come out and say that, you know, he'd been in, I think, some restaurant and people had put some, it was a bar, I think, some vile stuff on there attacking Jews. And he said he'd worked out it was a direct result of stuff that Kanye West had been saying. There's a direct correlation there, direct pathway between a very, very, very popular, very famous rap superstar.
So wait. So we're going to blame the creator for something that people do, right? We're doing that. So am I allowed to blame left-wingers and right-wingers for the bullshit they put out there and radicalize people? Am I allowed to do that? Remember, Dennis Prager told everybody that, yeah, PragerU is indoctrination, but we got right-wingers that swear by it. So I shouldn't take y'all serious because you're down with indoctrination. So I shouldn't take anybody on this panel seriously because I can run around and just say their platforms, all they do is just indoctrinate people. I'm just asking. Because we've seen Tatum try to indoctrinate people and he does a horrible job at it. Jack Posobiec tried it. He's still getting cooked on X. I ain't sure about this brother right here. And I've seen this man's YouTube channel. He sit there and argue with MAGA all day. So should I say 1, 2, and 3 at the minimum indoctrinate? Add Piers to that, that's 4. Okay.
So, iconic person with 33 million followers, one of the biggest followers in the world. If you keep spewing this hateful stuff at Jewish people long enough, some of your supporters are going to take it on board and do stuff. It is dangerous. You are inciting racial hatred. And I can't think of a purer personification of anti-Semitism, can you?
Well, it's clear that what Kanye is doing is anti-Semitic, right? Because anti-Semitism is literally hatred directed toward Jews, and that's what's being done, whether that's his intention or not. But I think the more interesting question is, where is this anti-Semitism coming from more generally, and why is the stuff that he's saying resonating at all? Because if we don't address that higher level question, then Jewish people are not going to be helped by us just wagging our finger. We need to actually figure out what is the root cause of this, and like how do we nip this at the bud? Now, I think that what's happening in this country with
Sir, you know, what did I tell y'all just now about Brandon Tatum? Why are you going on these programs and don't know why the subject you're talking about has different layers. Sir, you know exactly why Kanye is doing what he's doing with them Jews. So we're just gonna forget about what happened on Twitter. We're just gonna forget that, right? We're gonna forget how Adidas tried to drop him. We're going to forget how his net worth took a hit. But we're going to forget all that. Okay. I'm not caping for Kanye, by the way. We were all there 3 years ago. We're not about to do this. Please, I need everybody on this panel to put some salmon or mackerel or other oily omega-3 laden fish in their diet. Because y'all's long-term memory is horrible. Wonderful. You got black fatigue. Great. Who cares? Thank you so much.
Anti-Semitism is a lot of the time is getting conflated with criticism of the actions of the Israeli government, which is not fair. I think what would be more accurate to say is there is a subset of people who are critical of the Israeli government who are genuine anti-Semites. There's also a subset of that audience who is not anti-Semitic and just has concerns about how the Israeli government is prosecuting their actions in Gaza. So what's happening is, in an effort to quell anti-Semitism, is actually recasting the entire group as anti-Semitic, which I don't think is accurate or fair. And I think Kanye, yes, there's some easily influenced young minds who hear Kanye and are becoming anti-Semites, but I think he's also revealing some rot in the culture that needs to be addressed.
Well, I don't disagree with you that there is that danger that people conflate different things, and that you should obviously be able to criticize the Israeli government, not least right now. No one's been more critical of them recently than me. I think they're going way too far. There's no end game in sight. They haven't got all the hostages back. They haven't defeated Hamas. I don't know what the hell they're doing there, but I just feel like, it's absolutely not just right. It's a duty of people to hold the Israeli government to account for what's happening there now. And that's not anti-Semitic to say that. It is if you preface your criticism by saying, I really hate the Jews, and this is why, right? So it's how you do that criticism. It's how you frame criticism.
Yes.
But let me bring in Jack here. Just flipping slightly to one of the other big stories, which is this Shiloh Hendricks thing. I had this woman who came on as a guest on the show last week, and I was genuinely shocked that she just brazenly said she uses the N-word all the time. She was a young white woman. I want to use the N-word whenever I feel like it, and that was absolutely fine. And no, it didn't make her a racist. I find that mindset just so extraordinarily alarming. Of course, that makes you a racist. I don't care what double standards you want to use about black rappers using the N-word ending in A or whatever it may be. There is nothing that's defensible. Is there? I mean, explain to me if she's right and I'm wrong about this. But there is nothing that means you're not a racist if you keep using the N-word as a young white person to black people. Is there?
Well, yeah, Piers, thanks again for having me on. And, I saw the interview in question, and obviously that's her opinion. She's entitled to her opinion. And, look, for me, that's not a word that I use. That's not a word that I teach my kids to use. In fact, I teach.
We're not going to assume that. But I like how Jack didn't reference the fact that video she put up, thanking people, that there was a whole lot of grifting going on in there. I like how he wasn't going to bring that up, but maybe he will later. Let's see.
My kids to be. We're Catholic, so we not big players of the Heil Hitler song in our household.
Yeah, because Catholics don't use the N-word.
I think that song's going to get too much play in Poland either. But yeah, words like that and phrases like that, it's just not something that we use because we're coming from a Christian perspective. But at the same token, what I do have an issue with is the issue of censorship and the issue of banning. Because, like, for example, when I went to go and prepare for this, I said, all right, let me just look up the lyrics to the song, because I haven't even looked at the lyrics of the song. I think I heard it.
Jesus Christ. But I give him credit. He at least went to go look up the lyrics before he came on. It's more than what Brandon and the white boy did, and the black man. Okay.
Like once, but I wanted to actually read the lyrics. I couldn't find the lyrics anywhere. I go to like the main song websites. I couldn't find the lyrics. They went to Grok, and Grok said, I've never seen Grok say this before. These lyrics cannot be displayed. And we, it was like a block in Grok, if you will, that these lyrics cannot be displayed. So I don't even know what I'm responding to if I can't.
Why couldn't you just go listen to the song, sir? Miss Niecy, let him live. It's okay. We got somebody who's cosplaying the military trying to tell us that he got he, she, or it, because we don't discriminate over it, they got black fatigue. Let him have it. It's okay.
And even look at the lyrics. And so when you talk about this being shut down on Apple and Spotify, it's like, I do generally support the freedom of speech. I support the freedom of speech for people to come on this program, which of course will be on Spotify later, even if they disagree.
God, and then of course his next comment, he shows how dumb he is. What do you mean people don't own words? Sir, I think you need to go to the trademark website and find out how Ohio State owns the word the. How they made that a trademark. But you're right, people don't own words. You got it.
Me, or even say things that I disagree with, because I do think that adds more to society. And even if it's stuff that I personally disagree with, as I've said, that doesn't mean that I would support censoring it.
Yeah, but Jack, okay, but listen, I thought about this a lot.
Can I jump in here?
Well, hang on a second, Brandon. Jack, what I would say to that is, there are limits to freedom of speech. I mean, the First Amendment is one of the most ferocious defenders of free speech in the world, but there are a number of limits built into the First Amendment, things you can't do where you are afforded protection by the First Amendment. And similarly, Elon Musk, who's a brilliant, ferocious defender.
And again, I can't even take you serious when you can't even spell the letter N. I tell you, they dumb.
Defender of free speech has made, I think, X a much fairer platform by undeplatforming a lot of conservative voices and so on. But I found out in his first year they suspended 5 million accounts for breaches of their own rules. And then I worked out that Ye West, or whatever he wants to call himself, had breached multiple times on a daily basis exactly the same rules, but the rules weren't being applied to him. And what's dangerous about that is that he's not just saying he doesn't like Jewish people, he's actively encouraging 33 million people to treat Jewish people like slaves, his quote, to whip them, his quote, and so on. And never mind all the disgusting stuff he's been saying about his ex-wife or about Paris Hilton or about whoever it may be. He spews abusive stuff all day long. But the specific direction to his followers to treat Jewish people like slaves or to whip them, that surely is not an issue of free speech. That is a clear example of incitement to racial hatred, and he should be removed from the ability to amplify that to 33 million people, shouldn't he?
Well, if that's the case, I guess I would say, you can go on Spotify right now and type in any sorts of topics and find all sorts of horrific things. You can see incitement to violence against women across all sorts of songs.
Oh, Jesus Christ. We're not doing this. Jack, we're not doing this. I know I'm going to keep saying this throughout the rest of this before we get to the next one, and probably want to say it again. Free speech, the First Amendment does not extend itself to social media. It doesn't extend itself to the internet. I don't know how many times people have to tell you right-wingers this. You cannot go into a courtroom and argue First Amendment because they took something down or banned your account. They're a private company. They're a private corporation. They get to do whatever they want. That's why they give you terms of service. That's their legal way of saying you can say whatever you want within reason. You can express yourself any way you want on a social media platform within reason. And you dumbasses who pay for a blue check on X, you essentially gave up your First Amendment right. Because anytime you get your account banned and you try to sue that platform, they're going to come back with your receipts saying that you paid to post. So you understood the limits. And they have a right to ban whoever they want.
on Spotify. You can find anti-Semitism all over Spotify. You can find things where kill the police and F the police and all this stuff all over the place when it's law enforcement, et cetera.
Good morning,
So
poppin'
the
tags.
question that I have is, where do we draw the line? Now, for myself, by the way, again, coming from a traditional Catholic perspective, we have issues. For example, I'm not going to go into the church and play a song that supports same-sex marriage or the LGBT community or abortion or all of these things, because that would be proscribed in the Catholic faith. We consider all of those activities to be sinful. So the question is, whose morality, I guess, are we actually using?
Yeah, but what if somebody
tweeted?
tweeted? Okay, but what if somebody? Okay, but Jack, hang on.
Applied,
Yeah, but Jack, what if somebody posted? What if somebody posted? I think everyone should go to.
Well, Rihanna Peach, if you're going off what I just said, that's life. Then don't post on social media. Keep your thoughts to yourself. Now, if that wasn't there, I apologize. This is why I tell people, if you're first here, make sure you say good morning and follow what's going on before you say something.
With Catholics, what would you feel about that? It's a direct incitement to violence against Catholics. What would you feel about that?
Well, I'd probably start whipping it right back.
Right, okay, but the flippancy apart, if you've got 33
You see that?
people
See that?
to violence against Catholics, what would you feel about that?
Well, I'd probably start whipping it right back.
You hear him?
What?
Morality, I guess, are we actually using?
Yeah, but what if somebody tweeted? Okay, but what if somebody? Okay, but Jack, hang on.
Yeah,
but Jack, what if somebody posted? What if somebody posted? I think everyone should go to whip Catholics. What would you feel about that? It's a direct incitement to violence against Catholics. What would you feel about that?
Put him back, Wallow J.
Well, I'd probably start whipping it right back.
Right, okay, but the flippancy apart, if you've got 33.
This is the tolerant right. Remember, this is the same people that say you should get over a word. Now they want action. You see that? Then later they're going to change the rules. They're going to play Minority Report. Put him back. We had this talk weeks ago. We're not gonna do that. Put him back.
3 million people getting a direction from somebody they idolize in many cases to go and commit an act of violence. That to me is not a free speech issue. It is not. It is crossing a line into incitement to
if you're
violence.
talking about Twitter, for example, which I'm much more familiar with the Twitter rules just because I'm on there every day at X, as opposed to Spotify rules. Direct incitements to violence have always been against the rules on
So why
X.
is Ye allowed to get away with it?
However, it's not just Ye who's allowed to get away with it, because you can go up right now. I found John Cleese just yesterday said that Stephen Miller should hang himself. He should be hung. Now, he deleted it himself. That was not taken down. Luigi Maggioni, someone who, by the way, is writing an entire musical that's being written about him. Those are left up.
Yeah, but I agree. The John Cleese thing was a direct incitement to hang Stephen Miller. I read it.
Rihanna, what are you talking about? We're not liberals here. I don't know what you're talking about. We telling people they can change their gender. Oh, Jesus Christ. Y'all can't be this dumb. That's not even the subject of what we're talking about. And you wonder why I tell people to say good morning. The not real Rihanna thinks we're liberals. This is wonderful.
I think he put it on his Substack, right? It absolutely
man.
should not be allowed. Brandon, you want to come in here?
Yeah, just real quick, can we differentiate between a private platform and a person's freedom to speak?
Yes.
Because a private platform can have whatever rules they want to have, and I think that if Kanye West violates, which I think he has plenty of times, the private platform has a right to kick them off. However, in your own public life, or whatever you want to say in your own, the privacy of your own home, you can say whatever you want to say. It's a free country.
But that's your home, fool. That's your home. You pay for that. Brandon just explained what I said 5 minutes ago. They're not even that bright. He's not even bright enough to listen to what somebody else said. He tried to come back around and use a different point to say the same thing. You have rules in your house. When you go on X, that is the platform's house. That's XAI's house. They make the rules. You go on YouTube, you know what YouTube lets you get away with and what it doesn't let you get away with. And yes, they like to skirt the rules for certain accounts. We understand that, but they still have rules. I can't put a mass deletion on there. I can't do that. They will take the video down. Just like I said, you can say whatever you want on YouTube within reason. And you just came around and said, it's my house, I get to say what I want. Jesus.
I find it very ridiculous to a certain degree. I think Kanye, if he's violating the rules of engagement,
I am Bright Bells. You're just the bell end. But that's okay. You're just noise. We understand. Thank you so much.
he should be kicked out. But why do they let so many rappers and drill
Here we go.
thugs talking about murdering other black people every single day? They talk about
Why do white people allow all those country artists to talk about murdering people? Why do you white folk allow rock artists to talk about murdering people in damn near every song? Heavy metal as well. Should we keep going there? Who was here last week when I showed the murder ballads? Wait, I'll show it again. We'll do that real quick. And including the Dixie Chicks, who y'all say is they just full leftists all of a sudden. But yeah, Billboard did a whole thing called Top Country Murder Ballads. Murder. Shall we go to rock music? 5 rock ballads that about murder that still haunt me today. Opera music talk about murdering people. It's always about rap music. Interesting. Continue.
selling drugs in the community.
I agree.
They speak against women.
I agree.
think all of it should be taken off.
I agree.
If Kanye should be taken off, which to Jack's point, I couldn't even find the lyrics. I had to go and find it somewhere because I didn't even know what the song said because I don't listen to crap like that. But
You don't listen to crap like that. So if you don't listen to it, why are you here talking about it?
if you're gonna take that off, let's do it. But you also
Can we take off rock music? Can we take off country music? Can we do that? Heavy metal. Can we talk about opera music? Let's just stop Shakespeare then. Shakespeare talked about murdering people. Okay.
need to take off drill music and all this crazy music that's inciting violence in the inner cities of America. The young men are killing each other, listening to this vile, hateful, deceitful music. And I think it needs to stop, Piers. I think we're all on the same page. Anti-Semitism is wrong.
Good morning, Brother Torian. Doesn't this sound like the 90s again? So we went from rappers going up to Congress to testify about how their music is not bad to now they're trying to use your lyrics to prosecute you. Now we're talking about banning music. So you're banning freedom of expression. Got it. Cool.
Wrong. If you're calling for the death of Jews, you are wrong.
Yes,
If
Dolores
I'm on the
Tucker.
platform, that's a rule that I will not accept for people to do that. Or I wouldn't also accept for you to be calling for violence in the inner city, calling for violence against women, calling for violence against the president, calling for violence against police. If we're going to be consistent on saying we should ban
Oh my
people
God.
On private platforms for saying these things, it needs to be consistent across the board.
Yeah, Brian.
And he just advocated for shutting down First Amendment. Y'all gotta watch these right wingers. Because the next step is them going to Congress and going after the First Amendment. Y'all gotta watch them.
See,
Can
look,
I
yeah, Brian, go on.
I was just going to say, why is it that so many MAGA Republicans like Jack seem to struggle with what freedom of speech actually is? If I want to go on a public sidewalk, which I never would, and say I hate white people or I hate black people, I would never do that. But the government can't get involved there. But private businesses, as Brandon said, I agree with him, private businesses have the right to do what they want for the most part. And if they want to take Kanye West off a platform, they have the right to do that. And your response to it is, well, I'll go right back at them. No, that's not the way it should be, and that's not the way it works. Businesses and private businesses have the right to take people off their platforms, just like if you wore a swastika shirt into a restaurant, the owner would have the right to say, I don't want to provide service to you. Why is it people like Jack always struggle with what censorship and freedom of speech is? They're very, very different, and private businesses have the right to do that, Jack.
I love that it's the liberal who's speaking up on behalf of big business.
I'm
Will
not a
someone
liberal.
please think of the billionaires?
I'm not
Will
a
someone
liberal.
please think of the corporations? Who's going to help the
Excuse me.
corporations?
That's not even. So he's a liberal for saying that the business has a right to shut you down. But y'all were the same ones who were championing that bakery in Colorado when they wouldn't go out and service a gay couple. And they got sued over it and they won. Y'all went crazy for that. Y'all were celebrating that gym on the Jersey Shore who kept their doors open during the scamdemic, even though they were always getting fined and getting arrested. Huh.
MAGA
Jack?
Republicans just
Jack?
consider interest.
Jack?
What I'm talking
Can I
about
just correct
here
Jack?
that is the idea of a Bill of Rights online. An online or digital Bill of Rights, which is something that I've championed for absolute years regarding viewpoint discrimination, because
Thank you, Jack, for admitting that. That's the next step. A digital Bill of Rights. What did I tell y'all about Trump in the United Kingdom? He likes what they're doing over there with the social media. They just arrested a woman over there, right? And then one just took her case back to court to try to get out. They said, nah, we're upholding this, and told her she has to finish out the last 2 years of her sentence. They want this over here too, which will probably be in that big, beautiful crime bill that they're going to push out next year. A digital Bill of Rights. Okay.
because I believe that the internet has become the new public square. And because it's become the new public square, yes, I obviously agree and acknowledge that it is not illegal for, nor have I said that it's illegal for Spotify or anyone to censor. What I'm arguing
say
is
you said that, Jack.
should be a Bill of Rights.
Okay, so Jack, let me just correct you. First of all, just because somebody disagrees with you doesn't mean they're a liberal. I'm a registered independent who did not vote for Barack Obama, and I did not vote for Hillary Clinton. So you guys, every time somebody disagrees with you, you want to lay... I'm anti-Trump. I'm anti-Trump, but I did not vote for Hillary, and I'm a registered independent. Piers, this is my issue with people like Jack. When they disagree with him, he automatically goes to, oh, you're a liberal. By the way, Jack is the guy that blocked me on Twitter for doing the same stuff that I'm doing on the show. I didn't swear at him. I didn't threaten him. He's the guy who wants to talk about censorship, but yet he blocks people on Twitter who disagree with him. Jack, I'm a registered independent. I disagree with you. Your go-to point is always to attack people for being far lefties or liberals. Freedom of speech is very different than a private business taking somebody off their platform, whether you like it or not. That opinion
Freedom of speech is not, you're conflating things now. Freedom of speech is different than just the First Amendment.
No, I'm not.
The First Amendment is constitutional law and the Bill of Rights. Freedom of speech is an ideal of the Enlightenment. So if we're going to take that ideal and enshrine it in law, as the founders intended to in the First Amendment, then the question is, how should that be applied throughout society? And do we have a new type of society now where freedom of speech extends beyond just
Jack,
Congress?
Jack.
No, Jesus. These are the same people who were arguing that the government trying to control them. Now that Trump in, now you want control. Jesus Christ. Just let people say what they want to say, and they have to deal with the consequences. What's the problem? You always want to sit up there and give people band-aids. Just let them say what they want to say and let them deal with what's going to happen when they say it or how they express themselves. Damn. Like, it's not that hard.
Jack, you can't do things that incite violence. You can't yell fire in a crowded theater.
Technically, you
can't say
can.
things that can. Okay, you can't say things that can incite violence, and if you do that, that could be against the law, and you could be liable for that.
All
For
right,
example,
I
if you
wanna
go on
bring-
social media.
All right, let me bring in Kaiser. He's
Go ahead.
putting his hand up.
Okay, Will, and guess what? The left and liberals do that all the time. Is what's been happening to them? Have they not got pushed back? I think the laws are working. Just like when they say stupid things on the internet, you get to go back at them. I think that's okay. You know how y'all tell us to stop being so sensitive over words? Stop being so sensitive of what they're doing. Why don't you educate? Tell people why it's wrong and actually educate. Don't just say it because, oh, they're crazy. Actually educate the problem. Provide solutions. That's how you defeat either side.
Kaiser?
Okay, so I think first of all we're having the discussion at the wrong level of resolution because we keep on talking about whether free speech is allowed, and I think we all agree there's a degree of free speech that is always permissible, and there's also concerns about gray areas where someone isn't necessarily violating free speech principles, but they are being hateful. So just to be clear, some of the things that Kanye is saying are outright hateful, but they don't violate free speech. The thing that Shiloh said is outright hateful, but it doesn't violate free speech. So the real question is, how do we get people to use their right to free speech responsibly? Because silencing people is not going to solve the problem of hatred. It's not going to solve anti-Semitism. It's not going to solve anti-white hatred. It's not going to solve racism against black people. So if we look at the Shiloh case, for instance, we should examine, well, why is this woman saying this kind of hateful thing to a little 5-year-old kid? And why are people rallying behind her? And I think it's because on both sides, we're seeing tribalism. We're seeing black people hold Carmelo to a double standard where he gets protected because he's black.
I got on right wingers for doing this, and now we got black people doing this. Do not bring up Carmelo Anthony when you talk about free speech. Don't do that. Ugh. They really trying to mess this case up, but whatever.
Even though he killed someone. On Shiloh's side, obviously what Shiloh did is not nearly as bad as murdering someone.
It's
But
not the
he's
same
saying
thing.
The double standard is being applied.
Yeah.
There's white people on Shiloh's side saying, well, black people did this to us, so we're going to rally behind this. And both sides are rallying to the lowest common denominator. So rather than talking about what are people allowed to...
Sir, right wingers defended that chick saying a word. People defended Carmelo Anthony based off self-defense. So you're trying to argue First Amendment on two cases, which is fine. You're arguing one over free speech and the other one over freedom of expression. Never mind. But you just said we can't confuse the two. You're literally confusing it.
Say, let's speak normatively about what should people be saying. Because I think black people would agree that if it had been a white kid who had killed a black kid, they would not be sending him money. I think white people would agree. If it had been a black woman who called a little white kid a racial epithet, they would not be sending her money. So the real question is, how do we solve this racial animus and division and make both sides feel heard? Because I think what's going on is both sides are expressing pain.
Now both sides ain't heard. That's what he said. How do we make both sides be heard? They're not being heard? Okay. This one is strong. This one is strong.
After that, they would not be sending her money. So the real question is, how do we solve this racial animus and division and make both sides feel heard? Because I think what's going on is both sides are expressing pain. Black people are feeling discriminated against and they're acting tribally. White people are feeling discriminated against and they're acting tribally. Both sides.
But I was told white people, there's nothing wrong with them. They tell everybody else that life's okay. You just got to pull yourself up by your bootstraps. Are you telling us now that white people are trying to be victims? I was told by right wingers that you shouldn't be a victim, be a victor. I've heard Candace Owens say that. And she was y'all's queen for a minute. Well, Van, whose account have I been closing? I don't know what you're talking about. I don't own social media platform. You talking about X? because Elon Musk is allegedly a right winger, and a right winger has been shutting people's accounts down. They just showed y'all the stats. His first year, he shut down 5 million accounts. I personally know of a few people on X who had their accounts shut down just for going back at people for being racist. I just want to know. By the way, the banks who were closing conservative accounts, I didn't agree with that. Most of those actually donated to Trump and the Democrats. So why don't you give them that smoke? I'm just trying to keep it even.
Have legitimate grievances that are not being heard, and instead we're making the conversation about free speech when it's not about that.
You know what? It's really interesting. I think you're really onto something there. And I blame social media completely for fueling this tribalism, where people feel like it doesn't matter whether facts, should steer them a different direction, or should change their opinion, or make them just see common sense. If your side is taking a kicking over something, the instinctive reaction of so many people on social media now is to jump in and blindly support the indefensible if it comes to it, if it, in their eyes, somehow addresses the balance. So we had a very big fallout to the interview I did with Lily Gaddis, this, in my view, young white racist. I want to play a mashup of some of the reaction, because at the end I challenged her to say the N-word, really trying to force her to actually come to terms with what she was boasting about doing. And it was only when Mark Lamont Hill, who was the only African American on the panel, said to me, "Please don't do that." I thought, he's got a point, he's right, and I decided to leave it there. But the reaction was quite interesting. Let's take a look.
But in the process of screaming about how she can't say the word, he himself says the word. It's bleeped out, so you may have missed it. And to cap things off.
Okay. Well, this is your one and only warning. You keep putting in comments on things that people didn't even say. You do it again, you're gone. Now, you just exercised your free speech on social media within its boundaries, and I'm going to exercise my freedom of expression on social media via certain boundaries. Test me if you want.
He calls the other black panelists Myron and Uncle Tom, which is also a racial slur. So if you're keeping track at home, Mark said 2 racial slurs while shrieking about how he doesn't want to hear any racial slurs. It's like a psychotic spectacle.
It's just a word. But Piers, you invited her to say the word. I don't even get what's the difference between inviting her to say it and then him making a joke about it. And
because he wanted to prove that she is not about what she's talking about. And I've heard from people that have been around her, she don't be acting like she acted like here. But again, it's funny to find out that grifters can't tell what a grift is. All right.
Because he doesn't think with his skin color, Myron. Yeah.
Well, if it's lame, JL, then you should leave.
I'm a proud Uncle Tom over here. Yeah.
I was frustrated with Piers for trying to create a space to invite someone or dare someone to use that word, because he shouldn't be able to do that.
I see what the Pierce play looked like it could be, but what it ended up being has no place in 2025 also.
Yeah, you know what? I kind of thought, Brandon, I'm interested in what you think. I thought they slightly misinterpreted my intention. It was purely to expose her cowardice, which I felt would be what she wouldn't say. And I wanted to say, you want to brazenly boast that you would say this to people. Actually, when it comes to it, I bet you don't. But I did get their point, and I do think it's a very delicate area, that kind of thing. But it wasn't done just for clickbait, as some people thought. But Brandon, what did you make of the fallout to that debate?
I think the biggest problem in that whole debate was Mark Lamont Hill. He's an emasculated man that literally cried and said the N-word, and called another black man an Uncle Tom. Do you know, that's the craziest thing ever. You can say the young lady saying the N-word is bad. Of course, I don't use the N-word. I don't.
Brandon. Tatum Tots, come on, bruh. You sitting up on white folk platform lying like that, sir. Come on, sir.
The N-word and called another black man an Uncle Tom. Do you know, that's the craziest thing ever. You can say the young lady saying the N-word is bad. Of course, I don't use the N-word. I don't.
You don't use the N-word. Tatum Tots. Tatum, come on, bruh. Bruh, we gotta do it again. Tatum.
Here's the thing. They're quick to run and grab that talking point of
Tatum.
Biden and Hillary.
I'm finna leave that right there.
Created the, I'm gone, man. They created the fakest nigga I ever seen in my life.
Well, it took 14 seconds in that clip. 14 seconds.
Created the crime bill. They created the crime bill. What you said? They created the crime bill. I'm done, bro. You a fake bitch. I appreciate it. Fake, bro. I'm gonna expose you to everybody. And when I see you, nigga, it's gonna be on. I want you to know that. Because you call me on the phone and you saying all this, and then you get on the live stream and you playing this shit. You should be ashamed of yourself. Is that black crime? Is that black on black crime? You's a bitch. I told you. Everybody on your live stream knows you's a bitch. And when I see you, I'm whooping your ass. Everybody got your
Listen to this thug. Look how violent this thug sounds. You want to be hood, nigga. That's what he said. Pause, by the way Brandon looks.
Everybody on your live stream knows you's a bitch, and when I see you, I'm whooping your ass. Everybody got your live. I like it. You want to be hood, nigga? You want to be hood? You on the phone talking shit to me, and you call me? You saying you apologize? Yeah, nigga. I never apologize. You apologize? I never apologize. My wife listen to you, nigga. I never apologize.
Wow. Within 10 seconds, he said the N-word 3 times, but he just told Piers Morgan he don't say the word. Bruh, don't never put me on there with that man. I'm like, hey, Piers, you got that video for me one time. Brandy, you don't say the N-word. You don't say the N-word, huh? All right. He was just calling him a nice guy. And nice guy was 2 words that were actually one. Well, 1 word that was actually 2. He just wanted to tell Hotep Jesus how much of a nice guy he is.
Compel my children to use their word. And I think every black person in America should stop using that word. We didn't used to use that word. It's a horrific word. It's bad when black people say it. It's bad when white people say it. We need to stop using that doggone word. But for Mark Lamont Hill to
I love how he said we.
cry on the panel, and he's using the word every day. They listen to the word. They say it when they're mad at a black person. They call white people the word. The word is the problem if you allow it to affect you. If that white girl said the N-word on your show to me, I couldn't care less. She's an ignorant fool.
And there it is. He don't even have a... But again, this is the same dude who tried to play up Uvalde like he had all the answers. And he went on different platforms and them white boys cooked him. This is the same dude who said that all the people involved with Tyree Nichols shouldn't go to jail. This is the same dude who's on vacation doing a story about a retired sheriff getting run over by 2 idiots in a car and thought both of them were black, even though that information didn't come out yet. He just told you. If somebody said the N-word, if a white person said the N-word to me, I could care less. So if she said it to your face, you wouldn't care less. What'd you do, start smiling? But a black man was talking to you real nice, like you figured out he was grifting on you and you lost your temper. You went to UC Davis and they took a tent from you and you pushed Ellen DeGeneres off her bike. Nasty word. Shout out. Go ahead, Thug Tots. Go ahead.
She says the N-word. It doesn't bother me. It doesn't change my bank account. It doesn't make me not be a good father to my children. It's an ignorant person using an ignorant word. It has no bearing on my life. All right. Mark Lamont Hill.
It doesn't have any bearing on your life. Okay.
Young black men who who are so hyper emotional, and they create these scenarios and this activism and false sense of caring about the word when it's not even really true in themselves.
Isn't that the pot calling the kettle black? Because if you didn't care about the word, like you just said, sir, you wouldn't have been on here talking about the word. You would have let the other three talk. The word should be it's inconsequential to you at that point, right? Oops. You see how they catch themselves every time.
They are hypocrites, and that's the biggest problem that I saw on that show.
Okay, Kanye said, I know you want to say something. Just before you say something, I remember a Washington Post survey, I think it was, that revealed that the N-word is used 500,000 times a day on social media, almost exclusively by young African-American men who have, in their eyes, reclaimed that word and now using it in an empowering manner themselves. The problem with it is, I remember also around that time, a story about a young teenage woman, a girl, probably late teens, who was at college and was dancing around to a rap record which had the N-word in it and was caught on a cell phone video using the N-word in the chorus to this massively big-selling record. And she got suspended. And I thought, that's ridiculous, right? She wasn't using it in a racially incendiary manner or to be racist.
So you don't know how to self-censor. Ah, got it. White girl, by the way, who he talking about? So he gave her cover. Okay.
She was singing along to a very popular record, but it showed me that...
Which would mean she knew the record, so she knew where the curse words and that word was, and didn't self-censor. Just like the white girl who was on stage with Kendrick and said it, and he stopped the concert and was like, yo, what are you doing? Get off. Yeah.
Danger of if you put out the N-word all day long in rap music and on social media and so on, if black people do that, then you're going to end up with it just, in my opinion, I agree with Brandon, but it's not for me to say as a white guy, but just for what it's worth, my opinion, is it just leads to that kind of problem. It doesn't make the word go away. If anything, it fuels its use.
I disagree, and I think it's time for a little...
Hey, Nene, he was eating good after that pandemic, though. He was eating real good.
More corner on the difference between a hard R and a soft A when it comes to the N-word. Because there is a difference. And when we say it's being said 500,000 times a day, yeah, well, when it's used with a soft A, it's often used as a term of camaraderie within the black community. And I see Brandon shaking his head. You can argue it's not healthy, but it's not the same thing as a hard R. So I think
but this is Brandon. He said he ain't part of the black community. He still he had a whole child with a black woman and don't take care of her. Her words, not mine.
I think we would all agree that even if a black person said the hard R to another black person, those would be fighting words.
Fact.
Very different than a soft A. Now, you might think that we shouldn't be using either of them, but I want to make a difference, the distinction clear, because we should at least be accurate about what we're even talking about, because I don't think it's a fair characterization.
Well,
now,
let's
where
be
I
honest,
agree with Brandon,
let's say
that I'm not done, and I haven't interrupted you, so please let me finish my point.
Woo!
So, Mark...
Hey, brother, you better be careful. He's going to call you a fake Nick.
I think the gentleman's name was. I agree with Brandon. His reaction was entirely hyperbolic, and it's actually not helpful. Because I think regardless of your thoughts on hard R versus soft A, if you allow any word to have that much power over your emotions, you are giving more fuel to the word. And as someone who is online, and I commentate online, sometimes people call me hard R, and I just ignore them. I don't give them more. I don't like it, obviously, but I'm not going to feed someone's racial or hateful animus toward me by giving them the light of day. So, again, we can have disagreements on how the term is used, but it is not accurate to say that black people are calling each other hard R all the time. You can disagree with the use of a soft A. They're not the same, and I think Mark is actually getting more fuel to the fire than is needed.
Jack,
yeah, I love. Hey, can I say something real quick?
Yeah, quickly,
like 2 seconds. I love the gentleman over there, man. You probably want to...
2 seconds are up. He ain't say nothing. Okay, that was petty. That was petty.
The smartest guys I've ever met. I love your takes. However, I think it's slightly off just a little bit with the A. No white person can use the soft A. Can we admit, if I had a friend that was a white person that was my friend and they said, what's up, Mike? So no black person would accept that. So I think that when it comes to white people, the hard R or the soft A is still the same. It's unacceptable. Right.
If I
So
walked
that's
up
the
to
only
Brandon at a
difference that
Turning
I
Point
have.
event and was like, "What's up?" I don't think it would go down too well.
Damn. Jack, the two black men were talking, you decided to interject yourself in there, and that's where you went. But I ain't allowed to call him a suspected white supremacist. All right. And Brandon, when you just heard that, you should be side-eyeing him or at least texting him after that debate and say, why was your first thought jumping in with me versus this black man? You said, I don't think it would go down too well if I said, what's up, N-word. Well, maybe I'm overthinking it.
No, I think the sonorities guy I was talking about, who was caught singing, I think it was a Kanye West song, actually. But I think, no one drew that distinction about soft or hard R.
Is it okay
She
for a
was
white
just
person to
out.
sing the song? Is it okay? But here's the thing: if black people are taking the word back or whatever, which I think is ridiculous, is it okay for a white person to at least sing the song that they paid money for and they paid to go to the concert?
That is
Oh,
actually a question.
Jesus.
If it's number one in the charts, should a white person be able
Okay,
to
I gotta I gotta answer this question again. You with the pause-worthy name, you can say whatever you want. Just be prepared to deal with the consequences of it. Thank you so much.
It includes the N-word with a soft A at the end?
You
I
can
mean,
profit from the
that
N-word,
to
but
me is where it all
people
gets
who
very
take
tricky.
the money from can't say it.
Yeah,
I would
nobody.
say
White
no,
people should
and
be able to
if-
say it if they sing in a song.
Well, Brian, what's your view?
Okay. Makes me uncomfortable. The word makes me uncomfortable. You're allowed to say it. I would never say it. It's completely different context when a black person says it to a black person.
Yeah.
Do I think the word should be used in any situation? Absolutely not. Can I just go back to Shiloh really quickly if I can? I'm going to say this right now on the show. Anybody who has donated money to her is despicable. Okay? She
Paul.
claims that she has been threatened, that she's had... I've had death threats as well. I'm not asking people for money because of death threats, okay? I don't condone any of those threats if that happened. But anybody who donates money to hers, to me, it's like donating money to the Ku Klux Klan. She called a 5-year-old child the N-word, and now she's being rewarded for it. Those are despicable people that are donating money to her. And I'm going to leave it there. And if anyone on this panel disagrees with me, I'd love to hear your argument.
Jack,
She
you
called
disagree
a
with me?
5-year-old the N-word, so she should be rewarded for that?
Jack?
Well, I guess my question is, do you have the same view over people donating to Carmelo Anthony?
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Sure, I'll answer that question.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Again, were we not just told, do not conflate both of them? And Jack just literally went there and conflated both of them again. We'll explain it again. You cannot police people how they want to express themselves. If you're a champion of the First Amendment, you should not be sitting up there talking about, I want to put up a digital Bill of Rights. You should allow people to do what they want and get the consequences that come with it, good or bad. I think that's easy. Why can't y'all get it? If people want to donate to Carmelo Anthony, that's fine. They want to donate to Shiloh Hendricks, that's fine. You want to donate to Chauvin, Rittenhouse, you want to donate to Khalif Browder's family, do it. That's your decision as a human being within the parameters of the laws that they give us. You can do whatever you want. Just be prepared for the consequences. That shouldn't be that hard.
I love your whataboutism, but I'll still answer your question. There's a fine line
Can you answer the
difference
question?
between people who... I'm answering your question. There's a fine line difference between people who are giving money for a legal fund so he can defend himself and people that are donating money to a woman who calls somebody the N-word.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Oh, so Carmelo Anthony shouldn't get money because somebody on the Give, Send, Go wrote in the comment section, kill all white people. Jesus Christ. So that should be the automatic disqualifier. Somebody wrote, kill all white people. And y'all wonder why I say they trying to be the new victims. I'm going to tell y'all this, you want to be white supremacists. Y'all are far removed from your ancestors. I don't know what happened. Maybe y'all got around and y'all started eating the food that you planted. and it didn't work with your physiology and made y'all softer, but y'all up here tough talking, and I ain't scared. Y'all supposedly supposed to be the children of this country from the days of the 1600s. I don't feel that. All of y'all are DEI, dirty Ellis Island immigrants. Y'all don't have the fervor that these real American white racists had. I don't feel it. Pause. And I've been around them. And even they don't scare me, but I can feel that. Pause. Y'all really need to stop. Especially when y'all talking about this race war. Y'all really need to stop. Y'all would lose within a week. I'm telling you this right now. But there's that.
Which I, of course I'm not cool with that. Why would you think I'd be okay with that? Listen, we will find out what happens with Carmelo Anthony in a courtroom. No,
at the end of June.
You're not listening to me. No. If you're donating money to help somebody defend themselves in a courtroom, now listen, if he's found guilty, then I'll feel...
Why does it sound like they're regretting giving Trump all that money for his legal fund? But they're going to tell me he didn't kill nobody. Okay, fine, whatever. We laughed at y'all when y'all gave him money. We didn't try to shut it down. We laughed. We're like, okay, you want to fund his legal fund, even though he's purported to be a millionaire, he should be able to, a billionaire, I'm sorry, he should be able to pay for it. But y'all want to give him money, that's cool. We laughed at y'all. And we laughed at y'all when he got convicted 34 times. We laughed at you. Like, there go all that money. But y'all want to bring up the fact that people donated to Carmelo Anthony? Huh, okay. Y'all ran up there talking about he used the money to go buy him and his family a new mansion and a new car, even though none of those were true. Y'all went and doxed the people that rented them the house. But Shiloh getting all that money, and she talking about she need that for relocation and security. Y'all didn't bat an eye. That's crazy. By the way, screenshot. That white boy's face is crazy.
Differently about it. I want to wait and see if
legal challenges.
He is facing legal challenges, but I'm sure you had the same concern with all the legal challenges that Donald Trump was facing, all right? I'm sure you did. I'm sure you had the same problem with Donald Trump when they donated money to him for his legal fund with the 34 count felonies. You have Trump fellatio syndrome, okay?
Oh my God. Oh my God. Woo. Listen, pause-worthy name. I don't know what you're spelling. Are you trying to spell deserve? Because that was a horrible attempt. Jesus. Boy, Bush will pay for his crimes. He gotta go to court. I'm sorry. That No Child Left Behind is crazy. Why did this man switch his screen? What are you doing? Now we see the whole background now. Are they always in some hotel room? Where are y'all traveling so much that y'all always gotta be in a hotel? Don't let me find out that y'all get these opportunities and y'all go rent a hotel room to make yourselves look important.
That Donald Trump was facing, all right? I'm sure you did. I'm sure you had the same problem with Donald Trump when they donated money to him for his legal fund with the 34 count felonies. You have Trump fellatio syndrome. Okay?
Jesus.
Don't say I have Trump derangement syndrome.
Here you go.
What was wrong with what he said? Jack, your history has already proven this. Tatum Tots, you shouldn't even be talking, sir, because we caught you in 4K at a UFC fight when Trump walked in, and you were sitting there looking like the paparazzi. Don't do that, sir. Please don't. And wait a minute, family, Tabernacle. I'm about to say something that's real. I thought we should get over words. They're just words, right? Why y'all getting upset at what he just said? Brandon, I know. See, this is what you cops like to use on the street. Brandon, Jackie, Why y'all getting upset about what that white man just said? It's just words. Remember, it's just words. We shouldn't be upset at words. Everybody has free speech, remember? 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 If you have epilepsy, my bad. Well, Ralph, he wasn't that old when he got Stormy Daniels. No, he didn't say TDS. He said TFS. And that's not T4 Star. All my Dragon Ball Z fans know what I'm talking about. He talking about some Trump pause syndrome. That's crazy.
With all the legal challenges that Donald Trump was facing, right? I'm sure you did. I'm sure you had the same problem with Donald Trump when they donated money to him for his legal funds.
Oh, okay. The person who wants to be Sacagawea, I don't know why you want to be a woman, but that's fine. So somebody earlier in the chat said that apparently we want to tell people what gender they are. We don't, but anyway. This ain't TDS, because honestly, everybody will tell you in here, I didn't even say anything about Trump. So I don't understand what you're talking about. All I said was he was in a hotel room with Stormy Daniels. That's not Trump derangement syndrome. That literally happened. But okay, you got it.
34 count felonies. You have Trump fellatio syndrome. Okay, it's called TFS. Don't say Trump derangement syndrome.
See, here you go. We just,
Hold on. He literally had a conversation with y'all earlier. Y'all didn't want to hear nothing he was talking about because you, Jack, literally thought he was a liberal. So you already had your thing on him. You already had it queued up. By the way, who heard this white boy earlier say that Jack blocked him on Twitter? Guess what happened after this was over, according to the white boy? Jack unblocked him.
just like you exposed that white girl, you exposed him.
Talk about Trump.
Hold on.
Only thing you
You
think
just said
about
I have
when you
Trump derangement
look at fantasy
syndrome.
every night.
Okay,
Look at you.
You just said I have Trump derangement syndrome. I responded,
didn't, actually.
and I don't wear the Donald Trump knee pads 24/7 like you do, Jack.
Well, I'm a Trump supporter too, so if I wear the knee pads,
Yes. Yes. You literally wear the knee pads. You literally had a MAGA hat on. You literally went to the White House for the Young Black Leadership Summit 2 years in a row when Candace Owens held it. You're literally a Trump supporter, sir. You literally advocated for that man in 2020. You literally did. You literally switched your entire platform to align with MAGA in 2016. Don't tell that lie, sir. Don't do that. How does he tell this lie? Should I go get the video again before we go into the other one? Were you at the UFC event and you were following this man around? I thought he was paparazzi until I saw his name and saw his face. But all right.
I think it's sensible. All right, let me give. You know what? Let me give the last word to Kaiser because he's been waiting patiently. And you, unlike the others, you put your hand.
Oh, he ain't had no response story.
End up so gracefully when you want to speak. I do like this new mark of respect, and things are deteriorating a little to your left and right. So, final word to you.
Okay, cool. So quick note, if a white kid at a Travis Scott concert uses the N-word with a soft A, I don't care. I think it just looks awkward, but, they're excited. We don't have to get offended about every single thing. But to the more important point about the Shiloh versus Carmelo cases, I want to make it very clear. What Shiloh did and what Carmelo did are not at all equivalents. One person murdered someone and another person used a really vulgar word. But what is equivalent is the double standard that the supporters on both sides are applying. And they're getting tribal, and they're getting money simply because they're engaging in a digital race war. And that race war is to the bottom. So in my...
Well, no, you're actually wrong, brother. They want this digital race war so everybody could be at the bottom with them so they could be at the top of the bottom. But anyway, let's see if we can get that clip real fast. Let's see. Let me see. Trump UFC. Let me see. Which one? Was it this one? April, no, this wasn't April 13th. This was like, wasn't that one like February? No, it was last year. Damn. Let me see. Trump UFC. Let me see. What is this Negro wearing? What is this? Never mind. He got it. Why is his eyes bucking like that? Jesus. No, it wasn't in April. We saw this months ago. And it was somebody's cell phone footage. They were in the crowd. See, oh, he told you he ain't got no knee pads on my supporter for Trump. There you go. This is why I voted for Trump. Okay. All right. All right, I don't care. It's somewhere in one of them lives. I care less. Let's go to Steven Crowder.
We are
Now, as I said, he talked to Mark Lamont's shill. Should we just listen to the whole thing since we listened to like 30-some minutes of that one? Or should we just get to him versus Mark Lamont Hill? I'm going to let y'all decide it. Anyway, how y'all doing today? Always forget to ask that. He repeatedly said what? As abbreviated as possible, say less. All right, we'll start from here where Piers called him woke right.
Sounding like the woke right, a phenomenon I didn't even know existed, but then I've been reading and writing about it. You've been labelled the woke right, and here you are, to me, I say this respectfully, sounding like a paid-up member of the woke right. Because what you're trying to do is say...
Paid-up member of the woke right.
I remember a sonority girl who had been singing along to a Kanye record, which included the N-word, and she was caught on camera at a party singing the chorus, which was the N-word, and she sang it, and she then got into all sorts of trouble and got suspended and so on and so on. To me, there is absolutely, you talk about context, there is no similarity between what happened there, which was ridiculous, and what happened in that playground with that woman deliberately...
Check my DM.
...racially abusing...
All right, hold on.
There's no similarity there. They are completely different things. And should be treated completely differently. I think anyone, white or black, should look at the white girl at college who is caught on camera singing a chorus to a #1 hit record, which happens to include the N-word. She should not be punished for that. She might have somebody explain to her, you know what, blah, blah, blah. Okay? But there's no equivalence between that and what happened in that playground. Because you talk about context. The context of the one in the playground was to be deliberately racist.
Well, the context of the playground was that her child was having another child steal from her child's bag, and she was upset. And again, it still doesn't make it right, but let's also provide some context. The point that I was addressing was you labeling everyone who gave to the Give, Send, Go. By the way, I've also never been labeled woke right. That's very, very silly. $782,000, I believe, give or take. Maybe it's $882,000. But hold on a second. You say that every single person who is giving to that is the equivalent of the person yelling the N-word at a 5-year-old.
No, I didn't say that.
You say the same thing?
No, I didn't say that.
Hold on.
No, I didn't say that.
That's the interruption.
I said they're wrong to do it.
I'll be done in 20 seconds. 20 seconds.
Thank you, Torian.
That the people giving to Carmelo Anthony, support the wanton stabbing of white kids who die in their twin brothers' arms. What I'm saying is there is a reaction to people being told to sit down and shut up and silence is violence, and words being used to end their livelihoods. And that is the conversation that is taking place in this country, and most people are refusing to have it. Of course,
Why? So, whoa, 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 whoa. Sir, if you open your mouth, you have to deal with the consequences. I don't understand why they just don't want to say what they want to say and deal with it. I thought y'all were men. A real man says what he says and he deals with it. Lord have mercy. Pausworthy name. Do you know how many black people have talked crazy on the street and got dealt with? You know how many Hispanic people have talked crazy on the street and got dealt with? Asians, South Asians. It's not just because any other color than white. You get dealt with. Maybe y'all forgot in the mid 2010s where alleged black folk were running around doing all them hate hoaxes and then come to find out they were lies. They got dealt with. Okay. But yeah. You're perpetuating that white victimhood that we were talking about. But keep going. And shout out to Brother Tori. He found the video. Oh, great. Now my XDMs don't work. But oh wait, it works now. Okay. Brandon, you want to explain this? That's heavy knee pad, sir. Heavy. You did a live and you took it out of the live. Well, these are two different lives, but still. Finally met Donald Trump at the UFC 264 fight. Live, Trump pulled up with the MAGA Avengers, took over UFC 309. Look, keep America great. He got the upgraded hat, family. Sir, how is it a hate crime? Jesus Christ. Explain to us what a hate crime is when we go back to the video. Go ahead, explain what a hate crime is. And then after you explain what a hate crime, you know what? Don't even explain what a hate crime is. That leads you down a rabbit hole. That's inside the rabbit hole. I want you to define for us what woke is. Go ahead.
Didn't yell the N-word at a 5-year-old. You got it. But there's no segment if that's where we end it. Let's discuss why you have tens of thousands of people giving money for something they never would have donated to a mere 10, 15 years ago. Don't we think...
Why is he crashing out? Look, listen to him crashing out.
Are refusing to have it. Of course, you shouldn't yell the N-word at a 5-year-old. You got it. But there's no segment if that's where we end it.
Why are you saying but? And why is he crashing out? Why did his voice get so high?
Discuss why you have tens of thousands of people giving money for something they never would have donated to a mere 10, 15 years ago. Don't we think it would have been better before we got to the point of the Holocaust for someone to say, hey, wait a second. How did we end up here believing that only Jews carry these communicable diseases? How did we end up here, all of us accepting these negative stereotypes? Hey, wait.
Sir, it didn't just start with them Jews. Jesus Christ. I guess he really did miss history class because they were killing slaves because they also thought that they had diseases. What is he talking about? Boy.
We end up here othering these groups of people. I think the how you've gotten there matters, and I think the prescription for it is important, and that's what I'm trying to focus on. The prescription is more dialogue and doing so in good faith rather than this word whack-a-mole that we're playing in this country.
Sir, you don't engage in good faith. Let me tell y'all something. This is why you're getting what you're getting now. Because people are tired of trying to have you sit down and engage intellectually and honestly. You want to center yourself. You guys want to be the main character in everything. Cool. Now you're going to have to deal with it. Oh, Lord. Pause-worthy name. So why are you talking about the Japanese? This man, woman, or it said the origami slave owners. Jesus Christ. The origami slave owners. Fam, take a screenshot of that. The origami slave owners. So they subjugated, allegedly, according to this person, they subjugated black people by making paper cranes. Ain't this something? Well, Bellan, I can't educate you because you're not receptive to education. So if I can't learn you, that's not my problem. That's you. Thank you so much. Because if I didn't learn anybody, I wouldn't have 91 people in the room.
Come back to Uncensored. I saw your reaction in another podcast I think you did, where you were pretty aggrieved at what you thought I was trying to do there. And just to reiterate to you, in the moment, I was trying to expose her cowardice. And I listened to your impassioned immediate response to my challenge, and I immediately realised this would not be a smart thing to do. It certainly wasn't premeditated. It certainly wasn't from anything other than a place of you are an unashamed racist who says you say this word all the time, including to black people. I bet you don't. And you're just saying this to be performative. Let's see if I'm right. And, with hindsight, it was a little ill-advised, but it wasn't me trying to be theatrical or get a viral moment, just to reassure you, because you and I go back a long way. I wouldn't want to deliberately put you in that position. And you very quickly responded and made me immediately realise the peril of potentially doing what I was trying to do. But in relation to what Stephen criticizes, look, a lot of what Stephen says, I agree with. I do think we've got to a weird place in society where words and language have been ridiculously over-weaponized and used to cancel people and ruin their lives and so on. I agree with that. But I also think there are certain things and words and phrases which have been accepted by society for quite some time now to be completely unacceptable. And one of them is the N-word, particularly when it's used against black people by white people, right? And this woman, the way this Lily Gaddis sort of proudly giggled her way talking about how proud she is to say it and so on, I found completely repellent and disgusting. But in terms of what Stephen said about, this is heading to a dangerous area if you weaponize words generally, is he right?
In the abstract, sure. I mean, I think if you weaponize a bunch of words and people don't have the safe space to say what they want or say what they believe, it could be a very dangerous space, because what I find to be offensive, you may not. What I find to be extreme, you may find to be moderate. What I may see as outside the proverbial Overton window, you may not. And so you never want to get into a place, to use Stephen's language, where we're just doing the linguistic whack-a-mole. I agree with that wholeheartedly. But I don't think that's what's at issue here. I think there are a few things. You all said a bunch of interesting things that I want to get at. The first thing is, I guess, Stephen's initial point about my self-emasculation. I wasn't melting down, as some on the right have said, because I was afraid that this boogeyman N-word was going to pop out of her mouth and I was going to fall away. That wasn't the point at all. I think you actually characterized it properly, Piers. I was frustrated not at the looming threat of the N-word coming out of her mouth. It was at the spectacle that I felt like in that moment was being created that was wholly unnecessary. And again, I don't think you were doing it intentionally at my expense, but we're all hosts. There's a moment where you got somebody on the ropes, and we know it's a good moment. We know it's a big moment. And getting a white person to say the N-word, it's like a few good men. It's like, did you want, it's a Jack Nicholson moment. Right? If you think to do that, that's a big moment. And I get that. I guess my point at the time was, it's not the smoking gun that we think. White people don't lie about using the N-word. They lie about not using the N-word. She already said, I use the N-word in private. So no one pretends to use it more than they don't. So I actually didn't think that we needed that confession out of it. For me, as far as the other point here, I don't accept Stephen's analysis here of the donations to the campaign. Even if he is right that people were donating out of some political reaction to our hypersensitivity as a society, that's the wrong person to do it to. Do it to the person that's getting doxxed because they made a mistake 10 years ago. Do it to the person who rapped the N-word, on Gold Digger, and suddenly has lost their ability to go to college. There's all kinds of people who we might say, even if we don't agree fully on the context, who we could say, hey, is a better example of the cause. But as you said, Piers, this is somebody who was using the word in the exact context that we're afraid of, or not afraid of, the exact context that we're frustrated about, the exact context that we think it's being used in. And so to dump money, almost $800,000 into her coffers, it ultimately rewards her for using that language. Imagine if an arsonist were to set a building on fire, and all three of us agreed that that arson should not get the death penalty. I think we can probably all agree on that. But if we were to then take $1 million and dump it in their GoFundMe to fund the arsonist's legal defense, and now they get off, is that
Pause.
the right way to do it? Is that the right? There might be other ways to do it than to fund the person who does
Mr. Crowder.
That example was horrible, by the way.
Mr. Crowder has very politely raised his right hand to speak, which I think is a rare example of good manners on this program. So, Stephen, your response.
Well, it's the Canadian. I mean, actually, Dr. Hill and I go a while back on Fox News, and like I said, he's always been a gentleman, and I do accept his. I saw him on a podcast later explaining that he didn't know who the guest was going to be. This is after the fact, and I have a much greater understanding now. I also get it. I will say, great, now do stabbing. And I think I know what the answer is going to be. Can we both, if we want to find common ground here, agree that, yeah, we really find ourselves at a weird point in this country when a bunch of people are giving to a lady who yells the N-word at a 5-year-old, and a bunch of people are giving to someone who is famous for no other reason than allegedly stabbing an innocent person? I know that we'll say it's because innocent until proven guilty, but this is the information that we have on both of these scenarios at this point in time. And what I'm discussing is the prescription moving forward. And one final thing. Here's the point that I was making that you didn't show in that clip too, was saying that it's racist for someone to say they would prefer to live in a predominantly white neighborhood. Or they would prefer to live in their neighborhood, which is not black, I believe is what they said. And I don't believe it was necessarily her. I believe there was a man on the panel who said that. But you do. And I'm not going to attribute racism in your heart because only 4% of the population where you're placed in Los Angeles is black. I think we need to stop attributing and imbuing hatred, and I think we need to stop empowering them. But we...
Oh, my God. By the way, how's that predominantly white neighborhood thing working out? Because they got their own problems, and according to the Siamese coons, they got their stuff ripped off living in their predominantly white neighborhood. And this was after one of them said when they were in San Diego in the military, they lived in a black neighborhood and their car got shot up. So it doesn't matter the neighborhood. It demands on the circumstance, right? It depends on that, right? Ah, okay. Okay. Huh. Interesting.
We do find ourselves at a point in this country where neither of these give, send, goes would have blown up if it existed 10 years ago.
They blew up because you idiots promoted them. Interesting how that worked out.
Why? How'd we get here?
I actually, well, Mark, I'll get you to respond. I have to say, in a way, completely different scenario.
You're right, Nene. They don't steal. They just take things that are not theirs and somehow act shocked when they get caught.
But how we got here, I think the same blame could be attached to how we got here to what is going on with the reaction to Joe Biden's health. I made a point last night on X when that story broke. I was staggered by the instantaneous mockery, abuse, glee, ecstasy, desire for him to die that poured out in response to my tweet revealing this news about him having aggressive advanced stage 4 prostate cancer and metastasizing to his bones, which is clearly an incredibly serious situation for a man of his age. And I just made the point that the guy served his country for 50 years. Whenever you think of it, this is a moment just to wish him well, isn't it? The answer was no, and it's carried on being no for the next 24 hours in the most stunningly abusive, horrific, ghastly manner, totally inhumane to me. And I think the common theme, Stephen, of the two things is social media. Social media has, I think, inflamed social and racial tensions to a point where people just don't think the normal rules of society apply. They can be as disgusting and inhumane and racist.
Because it's not the same as polite society in real life. Y'all gotta watch this language that they're saying. Now Piers Morgan is trying to say that social media is somehow so close to real life. It's not. Yeah. Never mind.
Sexist, whatever they want to be as they like, with no accountability.
What happened to the twins in the white neighborhood? One of them got stuff in their truck ripped off, including a check that they had to go cash. Because he said his old lady left their checkbook there. I guess their check binder. And they ripped that off. So in your predominantly white neighborhood where y'all claim y'all trying to get away from the Negroes, you still get ripped off. But these are the same folk that say that, but then they talk about some white people going to places like Harlem and Bed-Stuy. They should be able to sing rap songs. The reason they're going there is because the property value is so low because black people don't take care of their neighborhoods. This is what they said.
In almost every case. And we've become almost neutralized to that kind of thing. And part of the problem is that when people like you and me, and Mark, I'm sure, launch staunch defenses of the right to free speech, the wrong ears take it as the right to be openly racist and all these other things with no accountability. They misunderstand what free speech actually entails. It doesn't mean you're never going to be held accountable for what you say. When Shiloh Hendricks said that she said the N-word, whatever, this was her right to free speech. Yeah, but everybody else has a right to hold you accountable for it. And it's the second part of that equation, which is, I think, important. So, Stephen, your response to my thesis.
Yeah. Yes, I disagree. I think social media is a part of it, but I also don't think that we're dealing with an accountability culture as far as the country. I think we're dealing with a false accountability culture as far as the media and those in the establishment. You have myself, for example, who was demonetized, throttled on YouTube for simply using the term lesbian queer. Someone who referred to themselves as a lesbian queer. It was a quote. Then moved over to Rumble, and after the Exodus Diageo, in charge of 80% of the world's advertising, told Rumble that it wasn't enough to demonetize myself, but that they wouldn't spend $1 of advertising on the entire platform. An alternative platform.
Remember when I told y'all that we were going to go over that yesterday? When he said that Rumble's censoring him? Bingo. Now you upset that somebody don't want to use their money to fund a platform that you're on because you're there. Because you think they're just being a-holes. When it has nothing to do with you. It's right there. He upset some money man that want to put money into an alternative platform because you're on there. He just figured out that there's people out there that don't want to do business with certain people because of the way they are. He just figured this out.
To YouTube, unless I was removed. You've had entire governments trying to remove platforms for freedom of speech. This is not the accountability that people in the streets are calling for. What is being called for example, from people in the media, is a lie. They would rather hear a lie than the truth. And so you have people checking out. For example, someone's afraid to say, could be my black neighbors, but it's anecdotal. I'm not supposed to say the black friend thing. Move to the same neighborhood I have because it's safer and there's a stronger sense of community. But if you want me to lie to you and say, I picked that neighborhood and it just so happens to be more mixed or more white, but my neighbor's a former Dallas Cowboy, you can demand a lie, but the media is demanding the lie, not the American people. I am in no way concerned going down to a black neighborhood because I do it to the tune of hours, hundreds of hours of footage and hundreds of millions of views discussing these issues. The challenge I run into.
So you went there for clout. You didn't go there just to enjoy the ambiance of the neighborhood. You went there for clout. Oh, man. Crowder doesn't even realize he just did something that we scream about all the time. Y'all love to exploit the black community when it's convenient for you. Oh, by the way, Will Van, I was racist to an onion last week. The crowd will tell you. It was quite funny.
Is when someone else, a third party, wants to play a game of telephone and tell them that it's racist. You can go and watch. I had not one, not two, but 10 people in this installment say, yeah, I think all lives matter. I think anyone who says that's white supremacy is out of their mind. They don't speak for us, the black community. I'd never know that unless I had that conversation with them. Very few people are doing it.
You went down there for clout.
demanding a lot of people.
Okay, Mark, your response.
Lots of things. Again, first, I think Stephen is, and I don't assign to you any ill intent, but you're comparing apples and oranges here when we talk about the Carmelo Anthony and the racist woman, I can't think of her name, video.
Lily Gaddis.
I think as you pointed out,
Charlotte
all day,
Hendricks.
no, not Lily Gaddis, but
You're talking about Charlotte Hendricks,
yeah. Charlotte Hendricks, yeah. When you talk about context, I think we have to look at context in the context even of these GoFundMes, right? The people who are funding Carmelo Anthony, you can tell this from the comments, this isn't my guess, they're not saying good job. They're saying we don't believe that you're guilty. We don't believe that you've gotten a fair legal process. And so we're sending money to make sure that you get a proper legal defense because we don't believe that you are guilty of this crime. That is what they're saying. Now, you and I may look at the evidence and come to the same conclusion or a different conclusion, but they're not attempting to reward the behavior. They're attempting to challenge a system that they feel like is misrepresenting the behavior. In the case of the N-word and this woman, right, Charlotte, what's happening is quite different. They're not saying, hey, we feel like she's taken such a loss from her free exercise of free speech that we want to reimburse her for that. That would be a different argument. I still wouldn't want to do it, but that would at least be logically and morally consistent. When you look in the comments and when you talk to people who are funding that campaign, they are literally shouting the N-word. They are literally echoing the racial epithet, and that is different. That's why I say if this is really going to be a First Amendment cause, again, and not the lie that you're talking about, then let's invest in actual First Amendment causes and not this. And to your second point, I agree, and I got you wholeheartedly.
Dude, stop playing with your ear. What's wrong? It don't even look like you have the earpiece in there. Why do you keep scratching your ear, bro? By the way, screenshot. That's a wild screenshot right there. Jesus. Pause.
Really, I mean, there's absolutely nothing wrong with making decisions about where you want to live. But there's a huge difference between saying, I want to live in a statistically safe neighborhood, or I want to live in a historically safe neighborhood, and I don't want to live around black people under any circumstances. And again, the latter is what came out in our conversation on the show the last time. And we're melding those two things as if they are the same, and then acting as if there's just no room for a white person or a black.
You hear it? Why are we shouting out Muhammad Ali? He ain't got nothing to do with this conversation.
Circumstances. And again, the latter is what came out in our conversation on the show the last time. And we're melding those two things as if they are the same, and then acting as if there's just no room for a white person or a black person.
So Stephen had to yell out that Muhammad Ali said the N-word. I'll let Black America take this one because, again, I'm a melanated immigrant that's on code. I'll let y'all deal with that one. Because remember I told y'all last week that I said this on X, that somehow we have a situation now where we're going to have right-wingers going after black Muslims again. I gave you two examples, and now a third one just came out yesterday. Some right-winger put up something that The Nation wrote in their newspaper about racism. Whoo, boy. Another screenshot. That's crazy.
Person, for that matter, to exercise any radical honesty about where they want to live. I ain't met a person yet that doesn't want to live in a safe neighborhood. I want to live in a safe neighborhood. I also want to live around black people. People can make their own choices, but let's not pretend they're the same thing.
Okay, we're going to end it there. I would say, in answer to your question, Stephen, I would say in both the GoFundMe.
Dude! Hey man, you gotta. Hey, Mark, you might have to put some. You might have to put some snuggle in your dryer, bruh. What is going on? He's scratching all over the place, bruh. Why he look like screenshot again? This is a record. This is 3 in a row. Oh my God, what am I doing, sir? Why he got that lie? He got that look like he finna tell his old lady a lie. He trying to figure it out. And he just got caught. He trying to figure out the next one. Jesus.
Cases, I think is wrong. I think the
I think it's worse than a word.
I think the intentions on both sides are actually malevolent and wrong. They're not doing it out of any
Stop.
social justice.
Leave your ear alone.
Because they're taking a side based on.
He can't hear nothing.
Those stories, I think. So I think
Murder is worse than yelling.
Yeah, listen.
I think.
Yeah, allegedly stabbing someone to death is worse than
Yes,
using
getting
an
the
ugly
word
word.
is a worse outcome than getting held accountable for using the N-word.
Yeah, but Stephen's point is that one is worse
I
than the
don't think
other.
we can end this on this, Pierce. I can take 30 seconds here for
Right,
talking about
right,
accountability.
but
You said there's false accountability.
but that
So are you against catch and release?
that
Are you
framing
against
suggests
no
that the
catch
money is
bail?
going for
Are
the
you
behavior.
against-
Ho. Crowder, don't do that. Don't do that. Don't talk about catch and release because Trump was in favor of it until 2019. Don't do that. Don't you do that. Thank you so much.
Discount under 1,000.
That
So are you against catch and release? Are you
framing
against
suggests
no
that the
catch
money is
bail?
going for the.
Okay, and sir, if you were against no cash bail, then you and your people would have been out in New York City and all these quote unquote liberal cities saying that this is not good, and you would have voted everybody out that voted for that, but y'all didn't because you said that was confined to them liberal cities, and you figured because you live in them little enclaves that it wasn't gonna get touched. Now cut it out. Because if you had a problem with no cash bail, you should have said everybody had to sit down.
Are you against the discount under $1,000 or less where a shopkeeper has to close down because of the name of systemic restorative justice? Are you against cash and release? Are you against cash bail? Are you against the idea that people can shoplift and not be held accountable for their actions? Let's talk real accountability for actions and not false accountability for words.
Cool. So I got an idea since we're going to talk about real accountability. Y'all should stop doing documentaries every time some white person kills somebody. I think that would be real accountability because you're propping up their name. You're not bringing light to the case. They literally are coming out with one right now on HBO Max about some white woman that lied. And I think somebody died over it. They literally had a documentary on Derek Chauvin after he got convicted. They made a whole documentary on the sentencing. Fall of Minnesota. Y'all love propping up your killers. I think that would be great accountability. I think that would be a start. Stop funding these killer documentaries. Y'all was sitting up there doing reviews on the what the one name called? Was it Charles Manson? The one Netflix did? Or Ted Bundy, one of them motherfuckers? Y'all did they did a whole series on that.
I believe that stabbing someone is worse than saying a word. Both are bad. Me, Mr. Traditional.
You know what?
Let me respond to that. Let me respond to that. Because again, that is a disingenuous framing. No one is arguing that stabbing someone is better than using the word. My point is, our response as a community to the stabbing is not to say, great job. Our response is, this was awful, but let's find out what really...
Eni, they actually did. They literally keep saying that Chauvin is innocent and he need to be pardoned. He didn't do nothing wrong. I don't know what you're talking about. You can literally go on X right now and look at the post from yesterday. They all said the same thing. George Floyd died of an overdose. Okay.
It happened. No one has said on the other side of this issue...
That was Ted Bundy? Okay.
Awful, but let's hold this woman accountable.
Jeffrey Dahmer, that's what it was. Jeffrey Dahmer.
I'm okay with that. But it's not apples and oranges. No one is saying what that woman did is worse than that kid getting stabbed. They're saying that the story of the stabbing hasn't been told well or properly, and we want justice for everybody. And to answer your cash bail, yes, I'm against cash bail, but I don't believe I don't believe that's the only way to hold people accountable. You can't hold people accountable without cash bail.
I've got to leave it there, not least because I'm worried about what you're doing to your ear at the moment. There's clearly an issue, a malfunction.
I actually talked about Chauvin first before I moved to the serial killers. This is why you need to listen. I literally let off that accountability portion with Chauvin. But there's that. This is over. Right wingers, y'all need to go back in the lab and debate. Y'all need to go call back up y'all's right wing think tanks, and y'all need to be in the auditorium and learn how to debate. This is terrible. Y'all bringing social media. Y'all bringing social media talking points to debates. That's crazy. Woo. Tatum Tots got punked by a radio show host out of Vegas and lied about saying the N-word. Jack Posobiec talking about we should be able to say whatever we want in digital bill of rights, and they get mad that somebody said Trump pause word syndrome. That's crazy. And now Steven Crowder bringing up cash bail, where it's not even present in the Carmelo Anthony case. Man, I'm still waiting for the day I can see a debate with a right winger where they actually pull out credible stats. I'm still waiting for it, and we still haven't found it yet. We're not gonna get edified ever. Oh, hey, look, family, we got somebody that said MAGA America first. Okay, since we're America first, right? I just want to know something. You want to explain this to me? Since we America first, you want to explain that to me one time? Because this just happened yesterday. America first. Uh-huh. He was touting this on True Social, giving them 50%. Explain this to me. Since you're MAGA, explain it to me. Stock slide as Trump threatens Apple with 25% tariff. That might be an old story, though. This nigga said, and. But you America first. How does this help us if he's pulling back on tariffs? How does this help us? Let's find out. Maybe the Dow was good today. Well, it's Memorial Day. They might be closed. Let's see. Let me look up Dow today. I think they... Oh, shit. This was on Friday. Shit. Yeah. 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 Go ahead, explain this to me. He said a 45-day delay. How is this America first? So he's allowed to put up tariffs on people, but then delay it 45 days. He allowed to do that. And I don't think that's going to wreck the economy. All right. I would do better, actually. I wouldn't keep pulling back on my tariffs that I instituted. Oh, man. Y'all can't tell me this is a good thing. Y'all can't do that. Hold up. Fam, these are the same people that are about to tell you that I owe them $100 and they ready to collect, and I tell them I ain't got it. I only got 20. And you think they're going to accept that. That's crazy. Hey, Will Van, I don't know if you're still doing the talk to text thing. It's not working. You're better off just typing it. What do you mean America has been last no more? Are you serious? We can't even fix our supply chain. What are you talking about? Sir, we, or ma'am, or it, we don't discriminate here. We're in trouble. I don't understand this. But again, y'all will find out in July how bad it really is. Okay. Torian, this is part of it. Those real numbers, what a lot of people don't understand about administrations, especially new ones, in July, they really give you a comprehensive report on how the government is doing and the economy is doing in the first 6 months. Because it's usually summer. You're going to find out how bad it really is. Think about it like this. Y'all remember when I said that after this election, BRICS was going to be fully recognized? Notice how the media still ain't talking about that. They didn't even, although, remember when we did the Middle East commentaries? Did you notice in all those articles I read, they never mentioned BRICS one time? I think in July, people are going to find out BRICS really exists, and it's been online since Joe Biden's administration when they really made their significant moves, and they're going to get pissed off over that. They're not going to get pissed off on how Trump can't negotiate with these people. They're going to get pissed off that Biden didn't do nothing. Watch what I tell you. And pulling back on tariffs after you institute it and 2 weeks later you pull it back, it's not helping matters. It messes up. I can only imagine what the stock market gonna look like tomorrow. Let me look that up. Because Sister Lisa did she did a video on this. Let me see, where is it? That was in May. That was May 14th. Was it this one? Yeah. They got all this. They can't move. They bringing in extra stock because they don't know what's going to happen. Container shipping firms call Asia U.S. service. May 9th. Meatball, I'm not a liberal, so what we're going to do for you is you're going to go finish cooking in the tomato sauce. It's hilarious. Sorry, Katrina, not you. That was on me. That was on me. That was my fault. But you're all right. All right. This is crazy. Look, even the right-wingers had to say something. Even the right-wingers had to say something. Sharp drop in shipping containers from China, an ominous sign for supply chain. Huh. And again, Washington Examiner is right-wing. Huh. Okay. But we lying. All right. I'll give you about another 5 minutes and then I'm out of here. Let's see what's going on today. I know it's Memorial Day. Shout out to the those that are serving and have served. Asia's open. Let's see how Asia's doing. Let me look up the Nikkei. Because they ain't. Okay, they're up 1%. Okay, not bad. Let's look at the European stock market since Trump said July 9th, we'll restart the 50%. Let me see what they talking about. U.S. futures and European stock rise after Trump delays EU tariffs. Okay. Okay. We got a lot of green. Currency, a lot of green. Bonds are down a little bit. The UK 10-year bonds are down a little bit, but that's all right. Katrinka, it's actually going to get bad, but I mean, you don't have to believe me. I'm just going by the signs and the data. It's going to get bad, but you don't have to listen to me. I just hope you don't get caught out with the shortages. Let's see what Canada's doing. I want to see if they got that deal with China yet. Oof. 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 So they did sign the deal. Oof. Shit. Shit. I might have to invest in some Canadian oil. Oh my Lord. Whew. Vermont maple syrup makers face uncertainty between the chaos. Lord, hey, old pancake critter about to have a problem. Canada, China pledged to amend relations. Pause. China wants more trade with Canada. Envoy says amid U.S. tariffs. That's crazy. Canada joining BRICS. That'd be funny. And there it is. They've been starting this since 2024. How Chinese firms are using Mexico as a backdoor to the U.S. All right. And then they said what? Let me see. Past week. Let me see what they got. Mexico will not choose sides of U.S.-China tariff war, but envoy what? Urges Beijing to help boost trade. Remember when we did that live and I said this was going to happen? Well, Van, that's not. If this is negotiation, he's very bad at it. If you were going to negotiate, you got to tell folk, okay, everybody in the world getting 10%, and I'm going to have to negotiate terms based on what you bring in and what we take from you. You just throwing out a whole chart. You just picking and choosing what country you going to do 10% here, 25 there, 50 there, 100 there, and then pull back off of it is not smart strategy. They're only negotiating with them just to get some money out of them. Again, for the last 4 years, they've been negotiating with each other. You could literally type in any two countries right now with BRICS, and somehow, some way, they got a deal going. But y'all want to tell me this is negotiation. Then if this is negotiation, he's bad at it. BRICS can outlast us. We can't diversify our money like they can. We can't do it. That's why he sent hundreds of billions of dollars into the Middle East through the military-industrial complex to try to prop us up. And that's not going to work. And they're going to make more money off of us because they're going to have our data now. But that's negotiations. Chinese investment in Mexico soars, reshaping global trade. Damn. Biden did what, Jim? China's top legislator holds talks with Mexico's whatever the fuck. I don't care. I want to see what they talking about. I care less. China's top legislator holds talks with President of Mexico's Chamber of Deputies. Oh Lord. Woo. May 23rd, so that was Friday. Threatened. Look, he threatened BRICS with 100% and did nothing. Now will y'all listen to me? He don't know how to deal with BRICS. Everybody that's been here since last year and prior, remember I said Trump don't know how to deal with BRICS. There you go. I'm going to blow this up before I get out of here. There you go. He threatened BRICS with 100% on everything and did nothing about it. Burn that into your minds. Take screenshots. Anytime somebody try to play that they know they the tariff king or queen, or they know that Trump is negotiations, he the king of that art of the deal crap, send them that screenshot. Yeah, I'll help y'all a little bit. There you go. Send them that. BRICS threatened January 30th, 2025 with 100% on all products. And nothing's been done. Nothing. Now he trying to take shots at Russia. You can't end around BRICS. You can't siphon. I'm just going to say, respect the Professor Black Truth. I disagree with what he said last night. In the part where he didn't mention that South Africa. I understand Cyril Ramaphosa, he a whole coon. I understand that. But BRICS sent South Africa there to punk Trump and to test his temperature. You're not going to send your big guns to go punk that man. You send the pawn to go punk that man and to test the security. And Trump sat up there and looked like a fool. Bringing outdated data and bringing lies. And here we are. He has no idea what to do. None. He mentioned BRICS one time when he ran and hasn't mentioned them since he's been president. But again, if you ever need proof, there you go. This is all about tariffs and who he put tariffs on. So he recognizes BRICS, but he doesn't know how to deal with them. Anyway. Hopefully you learned something. If you did, I done my job. If not, I try to be better next time. I don't know if I'll see y'all later. I ain't sure yet. It's it's cloudy out here, but, you know. Maybe I go do something. Maybe I don't. I know what to do. Watch this. Hey, little girl. Little girl. Come here. You killed my phone, didn't you? Huh? The phone dead? No. Let me see. 1%. Will you go 1%. Will you go put this in the charger, please?
Yes.
And then go put on some clothes.
Where are we going?
I'm gonna take you to the park.
Yay!
Come on, let's go. Hurry up before it rains. Come on.
Okay. Where is the
The one in the black.
This?
The one in the black charger. All right, I'm out of here, y'all. Y'all take care, stay safe, and you know what to do when the agents of chaos come to mess up your existence.